Okay, so the name of this course is Challenge and Change, and today we're going to just look at a quick example of technology and change, and just to give you an idea of one way that technology has influenced our society, which I'm sure just off the top of your head you can think of many. But again, we're just going to look at one. So, definition of change is any variation or alteration, a passing from one state or form to another, as a change of appearance, a change of habits or principles. Okay, so when you think about what that means in layman's terms, basically means any kind of change of state from one form to another, whether it's physical, whether it's societal, whether it's economical, or habits, appearance, anything along those lines would constitute change. And another way to look at it is to alter, to make different, to cause, to pass from one state to another, as to change the position, values, beliefs, or behavior. So again, just any kind of change in anything different kind of state is really what change is. Now when we look at technology can be the invention of new tools that make our living easier. And others might think that it is anything such as a method of communication, an invention, or an object that is embraced by people in their life. Now, a very well-known individual, Marshall McLuhan, he was around quite a long time ago, and he came up with the idea that technology, or the medium, was an extension of some human quality. So, for example, the wheel is an extension of the foot, right? It helps us move. The computer is an extension of the brain. It helps us think, helps us do things quicker than we normally do. So if we think about combining these and defining technology in his terms, technology can be seen as the creation of tools or objects that both extend our natural abilities and alter our social environment. So that's quite a mouthful, but it does give you a very good understanding of when we talk about technology, which we talk about all the time. Obviously, it's a very big field and impacts pretty much every part of our lives now. But this really breaks it down as to what is technology. So it's a good phrase to be familiar with. When any technology is introduced, it brings about some sort of change. No matter what technology it is, it creates change. So the example we're going to just quickly look at is the Gutenberg printing press. And I want you to think about, we're going to talk about some of those changes that a printing press would cause. So before you move forward, just take a minute and brainstorm some of the things that might be changed back in the day. If you can imagine, before there was a printing press, before there was the ability to create multiple copies of writing, what kind of life it might have been, and then with the introduction of the printing press, what kind of changes would there have been? You want to think about both positive and negative changes when we talk about social change, and especially with technology. So if you need to, just pause the video and think about it and brainstorm your list. And then when we move to our next slide, we'll talk about some of those ideas. All right, so just to finish up, some of the positive changes. One, reading moved from only elite people, because only certain people before the printing press would have had access to books, and it moved to the masses. So then all of a sudden everyone had the ability to access the written word. Books were mass produced, so again, really increased availability. And the limited learning that previously existed was replaced by mass learning with a variety of different books with the creation of the printing press. So those are just a few of the positive changes. I'm sure maybe your brainstorming came up with a few more. And we're going to look at some negative examples of change with technology, or with the printing press, sorry. The skill of memorization and oral recitation lessened. So before, we had to remember, not we, people had to remember what they had read or heard rather than be able to carry the book with them and access it at any moment. And we can see that in this day and age when we think about phone numbers. I remember a time when we had to remember everybody's phone number and it wasn't programmed into a phone. So again, with the introduction of technology, things can change. Another negative was the Bible was available to everyone, so individuals could analyze, assess the text for themselves, and this created a lot of problems. When the Bible was first around, everyone just accepted what was told to them, and when they had the chance to really read it and take a look, there was the time in order to analyze and perhaps come up with arguments. So something to be aware of. And then the third example would be Martin Luther King used his reading abilities to challenge the Catholic Church, causing development of Protestantism. So he, and this is just an example, used the written word to really challenge what everyone just kind of accepted before that time. So the written word is very powerful and people can read into it a lot of different ways. And so by having that printing press introduced, a lot of social change occurred because of that. So again, just one example. There's many other examples, and some of them you'll see in the lesson, and some of them you'll come up with as you do your research of how technology causes social change. Bye for now.